Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. It's a unique and intriguing episode. In this episode, we meet a proper salmon skin roll, not salmon skin roll, a proper sort of fish and chips man. No, I'm kidding. In this episode, we meet a brilliant comic all the way in Glasgow. He's a big comic book fan, and he's a very sharp writer with a very forthright and honest point of view in terms of comedy and in life. So without further ado, let's meet Jimmy.
Well, that's some introduction. How do I live up to that? Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's good to talk and be able to even hear my own voice afterwards.
Whatever makes of course.
Whatever makes you happy. But yeah, man. So I'm doing comedy now and doing podcasts like yourself and doing comedy around the world like yourself. And I've just started a podcast called Old Lockdown, How We Laughed. And it's really interesting, like for a really dark time and situation that the entire world seems to be in right now. There's a lot to be positive about in terms of people connecting.
Yeah,
through humour and through podcasts, and it's there's a struggle ahead for us all, certainly, man. But I'm really inspired and encouraged by what people can do when they're left, when they're put into a corner, really. Which is, as comedians, which we've all been put in a corner. You know, we've all been told it's sink or swim. And,
it's quite funny because probably 80% of comedy clubs within the UK are probably going to close down, or a big number, loads of them, especially the big ones.
Yeah,
like Angel Comedy are struggling. The Comedy Store, like the Stand is on its legs. Glee, it's going to be a very different sort of circuit, and I think many comedians are probably going to be forced to get part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Because you're already seeing in London a lot of comedians that are on the pro circuit and gigging places like Top Secret Comedy Store doing open mic gigs. And the payment as well has been significantly reduced, even though a lot of comedy gigs pay poorly anyway. And it's just, I think so many people are going to get part-time jobs. A lot of people are going to leave the thing altogether, and then there'll be new people coming in.
Yeah.
It would just be a different. The world's going to change in every possible industry, because I watched a podcast which is very good, Trigonometry, and people say that the actual after effects economically of the corona are going to be a lot more damaging than the actual thing itself.
Well, I mean, it's already the worst economic depression since 1929, which, is terrifying to me. I mean, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was one of my favourite films, but that shows that period in quite a drastic light. You know what I mean? Don't want to be cutting about like George Clooney and John Turturro.
Oh Brother,
Where Art Thou? Have you ever seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's a great film, man. It's set in the Depression, and it's tough times for all. But it's a bit of a caper. They have a laugh and all that, pretty much like we are doing.
It's a bit funny because there's not really going to be much of a hospitality industry. Airlines are going to be completely screwed, and a lot of them are struggling anyway. And then there's, it's interesting to see what's going to happen in comedy.
But it's that at the same time as well, the situation is feeding the creative juices of comedians. Do you know what I mean? If you have to laugh at some of the things. I mean, I've already ranted about the leaders that we've got, but I mean, this is happening. We look on TV and it's Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, waving about, and it's. I mean, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I mean, literally.
I wouldn't say they're necessarily stupid people.
Oh, they're definitely not. But I mean, they're absolute buffoons in the TV. In the press coverage, you know what I mean? And it's quite interesting that there's this whole machine that's put them in place that basically runs in the fact that they're idiots, or publicly idiots,
You honestly think that Trump's going to get in this time?
Well, I dread to think what will happen if he doesn't.
Because
I don't.
Biden
I mean,
is
look,
not.
there was. I mean, that even although there's so much more resistance to him this time, and he's so who he actually is as a human being is so much clearer now. In 2016, everybody thought there was no way in hell he was going to go into the White House, and it's I mean, I still remember watching the debates and thinking, no way is that guy ever going to get in, you know, like. And then the next day, but we thought the same thing for Brexit. Brexit won't happen. It did, you know, because they've got a way of appealing to the base instincts in what Reagan used to call the silent majority. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Well, it's there's a lot. It's a funny thing that's going on, and there's not. It's going to be a long time before there's any change because I'm still hearing the same thing from, especially in London, which is mostly Remain, Labour supporter, and they're all very in their bubble and saying
yeah,
certain things, and they haven't changed. But they've been beaten 4 or 5 times in a row, and in America as well, they've not changed anything.
yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen? It's not really my business. I keep away from politics and I keep away from all this stuff. I just keep quiet, do my own thing.
Yeah, well, I like I'm basically like that as well. I think I'm apolitical as well, but I'm also a pragmatist, and I'm looking at the state of the political landscape, and I'm like, I want to ignore it, but it just gets more and more absolutely terrifying.
But none of the options are any good either way.
I, a couple of years ago, man. Well, wee bit of preamble, man. Like, I've always been into writing and stuff, and into creative stuff. I was always into DJing and stuff, and I always like drawing and taking pictures, and I was just always kind of creative, and I've always been kind of looking for an outlet for that type of thing. And then, like I said, I used to DJ. I DJed for a long time, but getting all sorts of bother with that, going to do raves and festivals, and it was a good life when I was in my 20s and early 30s. But by the time I was like 32 or so, I was getting kind of tired of it. And then my mum fell ill with MS, and she was just in a situation where she needed to have somebody in the house. So I moved in with my mum when I was about 32, and then she, over 7 years, she progressively got worse. And actually, I had addiction issues at the time as well, so I was taking a lot of drugs and stuff just as a crutch because I couldn't really cope with being a carer. And then she passed away at the end of 2017, and kind of the need for a crutch left as soon as she died. I didn't take any drugs or anything, but I was kind of at a loss what to do with my life. You know, I wasn't really fit for work. But yeah, I'd seen some stand up at festivals and stuff, but I'd never actually been inside a comedy club until I started doing stand up, until my very first gig. But my very first gig I absolutely smashed, which a lot of people do. I mean, there's nothing special in that. But I found out my jokes were really well received. You know, they were really well received. But I still had personal problems. I still had this fucking CPTSD.
Well, I did the Angel MC workshop, so that gave me a lot of things in terms of like how I've got a lot of funny things in my persona, and
Cool.
to do well on stage, I need to figure out how to put the jokes to fit around the persona, rather than just focus 100% on the writing. Because I think what I see, I've gigged in a lot of different places across the world, America, here, in Ireland. A lot of it's they're just so focused on the material, but there's hardly any personality in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And when there's no personality in a lot of it, it's very easy to steal. And I spoke to one comic about this possible thing, and he was so adamant on it just being and it's not really he wasn't, but you have to fit it around your persona, who you are. You can't just be fixing just on the joke, because it's limited.
I know. Well, I see that a lot in the open spot scene as well in Glasgow. I've seen it in the open spot scene in Glasgow. There's two types of comedian. There's ones who just write jokes and they've got no personality, and there's ones who've got all personality and no jokes. And fortunately, I think I've got a bit of both, but I'm struggling to access the personality because of confidence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's
what do you make of what's going to happen to Edinburgh? Like, what's going to happen to the big comedy clubs?
I don't know. I mean, in Scotland, there's been issues with Creative Scotland granting funding to the big clubs. That it was going to happen. It's not going to happen. I literally don't know what the status is with that just now. I know there's been a lot of people working behind the scenes in all of the problem areas, like guys like Billy Kirkwood and Ross Leslie and Ray Bradshaw and stuff have been working to try and figure out what they can do with the industry, and Scott Agnew as well. And there's also been a lot of people working to try and help with diversity and, you know, more better conditions for people to be performing comedy in, and try and make it more like regulated like a workplace, which is a pretty fucking good idea. I mean, even although we all know how we should behave, it's still a good idea to have an actual code of conduct for promoters and performers and you know, assorted related people to live by. It's like in the stand, right? In Red Raw in the stand, in the rules, it literally says you cannot take a shit on the stage. Like, everybody knows that you that you can't take a shit on the stage, right? But at some point in the stand's history, I don't know what, but something's happened to make them feel that they had to put in the rules, you cannot take a shit on the stage. So basically, I think we should have a code of conduct around don't be a cunt. Like,
Well, yeah, I wonder what's happened. I reckon someone's worn a diaper on stage, thought it was funny, and thought, right, I'm going to be a baby for the rest of my life. Boom, bombs away. He shit in the audience in the first row.
Absolutely dread to think, man. But there's a woman called Ruth Hunter up in Scotland who's put together workshops and things for promoters, mainly promoters and a couple of performers to come up with a new code of conduct. So she's been doing a lot of work that's looks worthwhile. I'm actually hoping to get her on my podcast at some point, but I've not actually asked her that yet. So if you're listening, Ruth, will you come on my podcast?
So, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you've questioned what I'm thinking. No, you can't be right. And it's...
See, most of my jokes just occur to me. I don't sit and go, right, so I'm going to take this and put them together like that, and this rhymes with that. I can't make head nor tail of that type of joke writing. But most of my jokes just come to me. Like today, I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone, and I said, you know, it's always been my dream to grow old and fat with somebody. I just didn't think it would happen in a matter of months. Fuck 2020. I don't. So most of my jokes kind of come out of text conversations and phone conversations and just talking to people face to face. But actually, the jokes that I do face to face, I never seem to remember. I sit talking to somebody and all that, and I come up with a joke, and I'm like, all right, I'll write that down. But I never do it. It always seems to be when I'm texting and talking on the phone that I get the best jokes.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what it came. Yeah, was there's in the UK the comedy is very split, but most of it's there's the urban circuit, which is I'm not going to say, and then there's the mainstream circuit, and then there's a bit of the alternative sort of clown circuit where they do all sorts of weird shit like weird dances and all that, and it's.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of the gigs are in the mainstream circuit.
I just get an image there of people Morris dancing on stage or something.
Well, some of them do. There's all sorts of weird shit that goes. There's character acts. I like the diversity of the UK scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But there's a few people in Scotland, man, that are just absolutely amazing. There's an act called Paul McDaniel, who's just absolutely my favourite open spot comedian. He's just, and the thing is, he always kind of does the same jokes, but I've seen him in loads of different venues, and I always notice some twist in his presentation, in his persona, that keeps me interested in jokes I've heard hundreds of times. You know, he's really one of the best comedians we've got in Scotland. And I'm trying to think if we've got any Morris dancers. I can't.
What do you think is going to happen to the Edinburgh Fringe?
Well, I know that the entire scene's been decimated because there's no festival this year, and that's very sad.
But will there be? Do you think there'll be much of one next year? Because a lot of pubs, they depend on the Fringe.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The scene's been decimated. A lot of the pubs have closed.
So it's like when you go to Laughing Horse or PBH, there's going to be way less venues. There's going to be, it's going to be nothing like it was. I mean, it was oversaturated anyway. The Fringe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that's such a bad thing? I mean, like in terms of the oversaturation. I mean, it's not a huge positive, but it is a positive that might, the scaling back might ultimately, it's like in gardening, you know, if sometimes you need to scale back a plant or a hedge in order for it to survive, you know, and so many people have lost their jobs, and so many people have lost premises that were highly valued both in the comedy community and beyond. That it feels horrible to say there might be a positive to it, but I always try and look in the bright side of everything, you know. And I think hopefully it'll make what does survive stronger, and more valuable.
Yeah, that's and in America,
that's me looking very hard for a positive. That's not me saying it's a good thing. Any of this has happened, you know.
And what do you make of like America and like how that's been going, and what have American comedians said to you?
Well, I've only done online gigs in America, obviously, but I mean, I've fucking loved being able to do American gigs. You know, like it's been fantastic. I've really loved it. But at the same time as well, I've done so many in August that I consciously took as much time off in September as I can. And there's all these gigs happening. My friends are on, and they're all on Facebook, and I'm kind of, you know, still up at 2:30 in the morning. They're all signing up, and I'm like, fuck, I'd really love to do that, but no, you know, because it's great to see. It's great to see so many. On you go.
Yeah. So you said it's great to see.
Oh,
what's happening? Oh, I'm pausing now. Is it?
Right. No, it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see so many gigs happening and so many people on and stuff. But at the same time as well, I just couldn't do like 6 or 7 gigs a week like that, especially not at like 2 and 3 in the morning. You know.
Yeah, I find it when I've done it. So I did fall asleep at one of them and miss the 2 of them actually. 2 American gigs, I missed that one, and I pissed one of them off quite in quite a big way. He says you should have, but it's yeah, it just happens. I don't know what to say. Just be quiet. And then with another one, it was a bit funny because it was 11 p.m. So I had the laptop open ready for it to go on, but I was tired. And so I fell asleep and the laptop was still on. And then I found out that they kicked me out the meeting.
Crazy, man.
Well,
let's see if they watch for that.
It's... I find that their humour's a lot cruder than here.
Yeah.
As a whole. They say more obscene things. Because I remember going to LA and there was this Spanish bloke talking about booties. And it's in like, what's it called? Obviously, the black race has the best booty. And he says, white girls are catching up. Spanish girls are catching up. And then he started going, ding, 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 ding. And he said, oh, the Chinese booty needs work. And he said something like that.
That's offensive, man. That's straight up offensive as fuck. Like,
yeah, but it bloody worked in LA, and I was like, I'm easy going. So
no, I mean, I'm not denying it's a bit funny, but it's straight up fucking offensive. Like,
yes.
Like, yes.
And he got away with that. But if he did that in London, then it would be taken the wrong way. And it's a bit, I was a bit surprised. It was just got me a bit because they'll say so many brutal things, and yeah, they really go into town in America. Some of their jokes, like going into town about the
Yeah.
details of nether regions, weird sex things, and I suffer from Adderall, and then bloody in UK sometimes happens a little bit, but not to that level.
Yeah. But
And did they ever comment on your accent?
oh yeah, man, yeah. There's a couple of times, you know, they can't understand what I'm saying and stuff. Like at one point, actually, I'd done a gig, in California, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning for me. So I got up early for it. I went to my bed and I got up early, and I'd done most of my gig. But see, at that point, I was using notes. I'd actually been quite lazy with my notes, so I had all these notes, and I'd been putting things in the margins and things and around the notes. But I'd done that for like 5 gigs in a row, so my notes were completely overloaded. And then I noticed that somebody had put in the group chat during the gig, "What is he talking about?" or something. So I'm like trying to read off my notes. They're overloaded, and I couldn't quite read what was said in the group chat. But I was like, "Are they fucking talking about me?" And it totally threw me off. I was like, pure, like, couldn't read my notes. I read a little bit about somebody saying, "What is he even talking about?" or something. And I was like, pure, I just completely lost my way. I actually gave up the gig, and I was like, fucking, I'm going to go back and read these heckles. And then probably sit there like, fucking, he heckled me 2 minutes ago. Fucking, like, how dare they?
It's one thing I find funny. Whenever they hear my voice, they call me an Asian Hugh Grant, or they say that, what's it called? They say, Betty, what's it called? Oh, I like your accent. And it's a bit, thank you. And I don't think it was that big a thing, the English accent. But in America, they treat the Irish, Scottish, and English accent as it's like, they really like it for some reason.
Yeah, I know, it's a good thing. I know. But sometimes they struggle to understand what I'm saying, but most of my jokes landed over there. And I mean, I've not really properly died in Mars. And then the gigs I've done there, apart from the time where I had to stop because I couldn't read my notes and I was worried about the heckles. And even then, I got some laughs up to that point. So
it's quite funny because they get really. There's not many actually. There is a few English-speaking comics over there, but there's not that many at all. Like the percentage of sort of English, Irish, or Scottish comedians in America isn't that high, but there's a lot of them over here. There's loads of them over here.
Yeah.
Which is intriguing. And they always treat, whenever I went to gig in America, they treated me like I was some sort of exotic toy or something. And they never seen
I get comparisons to Braveheart and things, and you know, like, and I think at one point in one of my first gigs I was going like, "Freedom" or something, you know, like, but I can't, there was something funny in that, but I can't remember what it was, and I certainly haven't displayed it there. But it's just, but it is good there's people able to just gig anywhere, you know. But at the same time as well, I think there is actually an oversaturation of the Zoom comedy scene too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just. I mean, from a performing aspect, that I think your material and your act loses its magic if it's overused. You know, I mean, you literally could gig about 5 or 6 times a day, but is it worth doing? No.
Well, in New York, they do that. That's regular. And some of them do maybe 10 gigs a day. And you could probably do 100 gigs in a whole month. And that would take maybe about a year to do. You got to think about the material and all that, but it's very good for getting you sharp. But Americans are very rude. Like in New York especially, they'll gig with looking at their phone. They'll walk out your set. They'll even fart in between it. They would do all sorts. I mean, they're very crude, they're very dirty, and a lot of their comedy is less varied than here.
Yeah, but I mean, that is varied though. You know, I mean, I just like the idea that I've got access to comedy all over the world just now, but I'm definitely not overusing it. I'm right now, especially September. I'm doing like 3 gigs a week max just now until I get my podcast started, write some more jokes, and then I'll probably hit the Zoom scene again and work in new material for a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably gonna just write some stuff this week, and I'll probably gig 2 or 3 times maybe in the next few weeks just to see how I can get things to fit. But yeah, I'm not gonna gig.
I've got gigs for Friday and Sunday night, 8 p.m. both times, which is perfect for me. And I don't think I've got anything for next week, but you know what? I might be happy just to take the entire week off.
What are your so do you so that's what you think's gonna happen, but who are your comedy heroes? Who's your like?
Oh man, easily Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, George Carlin, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle. I like Bill Burr. I wouldn't say he's my hero, but I do like him. Okay, there's not a single woman in there. I mean, I like Sarah Silverman for a wee bit of tokenism there, but I love Janie Godley. Janie Godley's a great comedian, Scotland. I like old Scottish comedians like Chick Murray and obviously Billy Connolly, Robin Williams as well, and Steve Martin as well. Like Robin Williams and Steve Martin, I kind of liked when I was a kid. Didn't like them so much when I was a teenager, and then as I started to do stand up, I've appreciated their stand up more. And Lily Tomlin as well, and Joan Rivers as well. Pure desperate to think of a woman there.
Oh no, I think
there must be one.
Joan Rivers and like Sarah Silverman are the best female comedians.
Sorry,
I think they're the best female.
Joan Rivers, yeah, her delivery and her jokes are so sharp.
If not,
she's so acerbic, fantastic.
Yeah, I think they're definitely some of the great, maybe top, like especially in Joan Rivers, some of the best top 10 comedians to have ever been.
Yeah.
So what's your style of comedy? What sort of, because that's an interesting thing. So
it's observational, confessional, kind of one-liners. Somebody, Jason Oxhorn, that does 2 joke minimum in somewhere in America, can't remember the state right now, said that my jokes are like dad jokes, but they're not dad jokes, which I took as a massive compliment.
I find, the limit of doing Zoom gigs as well, it's not the same. You don't enjoy it as much. There's not an exciting feeling. Like when you do it on stage, it's exciting because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am my girlfriend. Like I said, I had a competition a couple of weeks ago, and in the run up to it, we went out for a meal with my girlfriend, our cousin's husband, and their friends, and we all went back to the house, and I wanted to try out my set for this competition. So I tried out my jokes, and there was, like 6 people in the living room, and I was able to, like, deliver the material, going to one person, to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And, I'd done a really good set, and I loved it. And, I mean, they really enjoyed it. Actually, a couple of people hadn't even seen me do comedy before, so when I stood up and started telling jokes like an actual comedian would, they were really shocked, and they were like, "No, that was brilliant," and they really enjoyed it, and I was really grateful to them for allowing me to stand up in the living room and treat them like an audience. But then I done the same thing later with different people, and I just couldn't get their attention, and they had a little bit more to drink, and I basically died Mars, like after thinking I was going to totally smash it again, even though it shows how desperate comedians are. You're prepared to do a gig to people that don't want you to even be in the living room, just to try and get that energy of the crowd back, Yeah.
Okay. One thing I want to ask you as well: how does the comedy scene work in Scotland as a whole, like in terms of progression into this, into that, and then to the other levels?
It's not something I think about too much, or it's not something I really think about too much. I genuinely don't really know what I'm doing with comedy. I just know that I'm just keep going at it. But I don't see myself getting to. I mean, ideally, I would like to do our shows. I would like to get to the stage where I'm comfortable enough to do our shows and talk about things that are worth saying. But I don't see myself following a traditional route or.
Okay, and
Readings.
what is what is the Scotland scene relationship with Edinburgh as opposed to the rest of the UK?
There's a lot of division. There's a lot of. It's pretty hard to work out the territory, to be honest with you. But it's not. I mean, for me, I've been doing it 2 years, and the gigs just keep coming. So I just keep doing the gigs and don't think too much about progression or what the scene's actually like. I mean, I take note of stuff that I need to take note of. Comedy is an addiction, really. You can get hooked on it. You need to treat it carefully, man. I mean, there's people I don't particularly. They're not my type of people that I would definitely put on, because you can't deny that funny's funny. I think there's too much putting stock in who's your friends and who isn't your friends in comedy, when we're all chasing the same thing, which is to entertain people and see nobody suffer or be left behind. So how I personally feel about a person doesn't really come into it for me. Do you know what I mean? Unless they've actually, actively caused me trouble and went out their way to do so, then I'm quite happy to see diversity and variety in all my endeavours. I mean, I can't think of a single night where I've performed at where I've enjoyed every single act, and that's a good thing, because not everything's my cup of tea.
Oh, okay. So what's your cup of tea? Green tea, Yorkshire tea, what?
Oh, you're not starting with these fucking metaphors again, are you, man? What's my tartar sauce, my chips or whatever? I was like, that's a straight question, Marvin.
What are you gonna do personally when things get back to normal?
Gigs. Do gigs. Hopefully keep going with this podcast one way or another. And I mean, it's the networking for the international podcasting's been international comedy's been good. So I think the Zoom comedy stuff will coexist with the live performances for some time to come, and hopefully we'll start to see more, travel between countries once the gigs start up.
It's one thing that I'm interested to see is what happened to the theatres across the whole globe, because I found out. Okay, you're not there yet. I'll give you a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're here. So what I was saying there. So you're hoping to get back to gigging, and just get maybe gigging the world. You see the Zoom's going across. Okay, and you're just going to get on with things and see what turns out, and just play it by ear, really.
Yeah. That's what I've done since the day I first picked up a mic, and it's been a lot of fun. It's not always been the easiest, but it's how I intend to proceed.
And what do you see with? Yeah, one thing I've like in terms of theatre shows for comedy across Britain. A lot of theatre shows, or a lot of theatres in general, a lot of them, what I found out, especially with theatre plays or any shows you put on, a lot of them are not actually making any money. So they're struggling before it. So a lot of theatres are definitely going to be down. And there's going to be a lot more outdoor shows, I think, even when things get back to normal. And I also think that, that's what I think. And let's see what happens. One thing I want to say to you as well, there's 2 other questions I like to ask at the end of the podcast.
Sure.
Which are, what are your credit card details? What advice would you give to your younger self? And what is a quote you'd like to live your life by?
Advice I would give to myself in comedy is don't take any of it personally. Trust people less, and give less of yourself to people just because you've walked in the door at the same time as them. And rock on, kid.
So you're
Right.
saying live by a rock song. Okay.
No, not live by a rock song. Just like I said, rock on, kid. It was a joke. But I just, don't take anything personally, and don't give too much of yourself to the people you came in the door with, because comedy's strange, but worth it.
Okay. And what is a quote you'd like to live your life by?
I can't even think of one just now. I could have come up with an absolute belter if I'd been given notice of this, Marvin.
Okay, fine. So in a couple of days, let me know.
All right, well, a quote is at the end of 7, Morgan Freeman's character says, and he's quoting Hank Chaucer, when he says, "The world's a beautiful place and worth fighting for." I believe in the second part.
Okay, that's cool. So, very Jon Snow. The true living north. Oh, that's not how he sounds, but the true north. So there are those things to live by. And anything else you want to plug apart from your podcast?
No, just, if you see I'm doing comedy, come and see me. No matter where in your world right now, you'll be able to come and see me by clicking a link. So that's good.
Yeah,
Jimmy Longmuir. I'm Jimmy Longmuir on Facebook, and my handles are Jimmy Jock, JIMIJOKK on Instagram and for my Facebook profile. So, yeah.
And basically, he's described his act as a pizza delivery service, where he'll come round your house and he will perform for you. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if they had stand up as a pizza delivery service?
Something that might actually happen. There might be a Just Eat for comedians.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be
all right,
funny?
man. That's a note to end on. I'm going to go, man. Cheers.
Take care, man. See you later.